Hi, hello, vanakkam. Welcome to Selfie TV and DNA Studios presents Promo Cafe, powered by Royal Page Reactor Kavi. இன்றைக்கு நாங்கள் நிகழ்ச்சிக்குள்ளே போகிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு விஷயத்தை பற்றி பேசிட்டு அதுக்கு பிறகு நாங்கள் நிகழ்ச்சிக்குள்ளே போவோம். என்னென்னா ஒரு தனிப்பட்ட ஒரு மனிதனுக்கு ஒரு தனிப்பட்ட ஒரு நபருக்கு ஒரு தனிப்பட்ட மனிதனால் செய்யக்கூடிய உதவிகள் கூட சில சமயத்தில் சென்றடைகிறதும் இல்லை, சில கஷ்டமாயும் இருக்கின்றது. அந்த விதத்தில் உலகத்தில் எத்தனையோ நான் ப்ராஃபிட் ஆர்கனைசேஷன்ஸ் இருக்குது. வேர்ல்டு விஷன், அது மாதிரி லோக்கல் கம்யூனிட்டி சர்வீசஸ், நான் ப்ராஃபிட் ஆர்கனைசேஷனாக இருக்கும்போது ஒரு தனிநபருக்கே செய்யும்போது இவ்வளோ கஷ்டமாக இருக்கிற நேரத்தில் ஒரு கம்யூனிட்டி, அதாவது எங்களோட தமிழ் கம்யூனிட்டி, யுத்தத்தின் பிறகு பாதிக்கப்பட்ட அனைத்து தமிழ் மக்களுக்கும், அதாவது எங்கள் இலங்கையில் வடக்கு கிழக்கு பாக அனைத்து தமிழ் மக்களுக்கும் உதவிகள் செஞ்சுக்கிட்டு ஒரு நான் ப்ராஃபிட் ஆர்கனைசேஷன் சம்மந்தமான ஒரு விஷயத்தை பற்றி தான் நாங்கள் பார்க்க போகிறோம். அவங்களோட மெயின் நோக்கம், அதாவது யுத்தத்தின் பிறகு மனிதர்களுக்கு கிடைக்க வேண்டிய உரிமைகள், அதாவது ஹியூமன் ரைட்ஸ் என்ற விஷயத்துக்காக ரொம்பவே தங்களோட நேரங்கள், தங்களோட சொந்த பந்தங்களை விட்டு கனடாவில் இருந்து சென்று இலங்கையில் அங்கேயே நிரந்தரமாக இருந்து அங்கு உள்ள மக்களின் கஷ்டங்கள், யுத்தத்தின் பிறகு அவங்க படும் துன்பங்கள், அவங்களுக்கு என்னென்ன வசதிகள் தேவை, அவங்களோட உரிமைகளுக்காக போராடி கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். போராட்டம் ஒன்று சொன்னோன்னு நீங்கள் தப்பாக எதுவும் நினச்சிடுவோன்னா ஜஸ்ட் ஃபைட்டிங் ஃபார் தேர் ரைட்ஸ் ஒன்லி, ரைட்? ஸோ அதில் மெயினாக முக்கியமாக ஒரு நபரை நாங்கள் இன்றைக்கி சந்திக்க போகிறோம். அதாவது அடையாளம் என்கின்ற நான் ப்ராஃபிட் ஆர்கனைசேஷனின் ரீசர்ச் டைரக்டர் தர்ஷா ஜெகதீஸ்வரனாக கூட தான் நாங்கள் சந்திக்க போகிறோம். வணக்கம் தர்ஷா, எப்படி இருக்கிறீங்க? நல்லா இருக்கிறோம். Before we get to the show, why don't we just start with the coffee?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead. So thanks for coming to our show. நாங்கள் தர்ஷா பற்றி ஒரு சின்ன ப்ரீஃபாக ஒரு விஷயம் நாங்கள் சொல்லணும். தர்ஷா பார்க்குறதுக்கு ஒரு சாதாரணமாக ஒரு பெண்ணாக இருந்தாலும் அவங்க she was a law படித்து முடித்து UFTL கிராஜுவேட் பண்ணி 1 year ஒரு வருடங்கள் லா ஃபார்மில் ஒர்க் பண்ணி அதை எல்லாத்தையும் விட்டு எமது மக்களின் உரிமைக்காக சில விஷயங்களை அவங்க செஞ்சிட்டு இருக்கிறாங்க. ஒரு உண்மையிலேயே ஒரு என்ன சொல்கிறது, ஒரு ரொம்பவே ப்ரௌடாக நினைக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு விஷயம். அந்த விதத்தில் we are really proud of you and thanks for doing this for our community. And so the first thing that I want to ask you, I know you graduated from UFT, you studied law and then you worked 1 year at law firm. After that, instead of working in Canada, if you wanted it, நீங்கள் நினச்சிருந்தா ஒரு law firmலையோ இல்லாட்டி ஒரு எங்கே இருந்தாலும் போயிட்டு ஒரு லாயராக ஜாயின் பண்ணி ஒர்க் பண்ணியிருந்தீங்கன்னா you would have making a lot of money in Canada, you would have a luxury life, right? அதெல்லாத்தையும் விட்டுட்டு இப்படி ஒரு விஷயம் செய்யணும், எங்களோட மக்களுக்கு இவ்வளோ தூரம் ஒரு உதவியை செய்யணும் என்று எந்த விஷயம் உங்களை மோட்டிவேட் பண்ண விஷயமா இருக்குது?
So I think நாங்கள் முதல்ல பெண் கொஞ்சம் பார்க்க வரேன். 2012 myself, my sister and my cousin, we decided to go back for the first time. I was born in Canada, so we decided to go to the Northeast and see for ourselves what had happened after the war and take a look at the situation that was facing the people there. And I think, once you go and you meet some of the war-affected population there, I think it's hard to sort of let that go, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard not to then continue to try and work for the community because you think to yourself, if not for the fact that my parents and my parents were slightly more well off, then that could have been myself, right? They're the same age as you, they look like you, they look like your parents. Mm-hmm. And I think that connection, it's very hard to break that connection afterwards. I was also in university at the time that 2009 happened when the war ended. Mm-hmm. So I think, like everyone else in the Tamil community, you were watching what happened with, shock and horror, right? That this was happening in the Northeast, in Mullaitivu. And I think after that I decided I really wanted to work. I'd always wanted to work on human rights. But I think in those experiences, I really became quite committed to Tamil rights. And so through law school, I kind of took every opportunity to work on issues in 2013, I went back again and I interned at an organization in Colombo that looked at human rights issues as well. And then I started getting involved in the diaspora. So, going to Geneva, the UN Human Rights Council, doing some advocacy here as well, and just researching and learning about these issues and, developing connections with people back home. So when I finished law school, here in Canada, you have to complete that 1 year of articles to get called to the bar. So I did that, and I did enjoy the litigation practice that I was in, but I think for me, I had always felt like what I really wanted to do was work on issues back home. And so I got in touch with a few academics and activists in Jaffna who were also sort of thinking, this was the right time to try and build an institutional space in Jaffna that could talk about human rights issues, political issues, inter-community and intra-community issues, and do it from a Tamil perspective with a focus on the Northeast and the Tamil polity. Because I'm sure... As I think most people are aware, up until 2015, up until really we started, most of the English language policy work that was coming out of Sri Lanka was really coming out of the capital city or the south.
Right.
The capacity just wasn't there in the Northeast to do that kind of work in English. There are some great organizations that do this kind of human rights and advocacy work, but for the most part they do it in Tamil. Or if they do it in English, the reach is not that great. So we thought, why not try and build the institutional capacity in the north to do this kind of work, because it is really important, right? Like these human rights violations are still ongoing. There hasn't been any accountability or justice for what happened. We still don't have a political solution.
Right.
So there's lots of issues that need to be discussed, and I think we thought it was quite important to do it from a perspective that was grounded in the Northeast.
In the Northeast, right.
And so I think that's why I went back, and I've now been back for a year and a half helping set up the Arialam Center for Policy Research. And I think, I'm quite happy with the work we do, and I think it is making quite a big impact.
That's good, that's good. After the war, இப்போ நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா war முடிஞ்ச உடனும் வந்து எங்களோட மனநிலையாக இருக்கட்டும் என்ன, ஈழத்தில் எங்களோட தாயத்தில் இருக்கிற மக்களோட மனநிலையாக என்ன, ஈவன் உங்களோட கூட ரைட் ஒரு வித்தியாசமாக ஒரு மாதிரி நாங்கள் ஃபீல் பண்ணியிருப்போம். ஓ that's it, we are done. No more. There's no more Tamilulam, there's no more nothing. We are all done. அந்த நிலைமைக்கும் அந்த 2009 இருந்த அந்த நிலைமைக்கும் இப்போ இருக்கிற அதாவது வந்து 2017, we are almost 2018 now, but இந்த 2017 வரைக்கும் வந்து மக்களோட மனநிலை வந்து அந்த கிட்டத்தட்ட இந்த ஒரு 7-8 வருடங்களில் எப்படி மாறி இருக்குன்னு நீங்கள் ஃபீல் பண்ணி 1.5 வருஷம் நீங்கள் அங்கே இருந்தேன்னு சொல்கிறீங்க. அந்த விதத்தில் நீங்கள் மக்களோட பழகிருப்பீங்க. அதாவது வந்து உதவிகள் தேவைப்பட்ட மக்கள் அநேகமாக அவங்களோட வந்து சந்திச்சிருப்பார்கள். அவங்களோட மனநிலை வந்து எப்படி மாறி இருக்குது நினைக்கிறீங்க நீங்கள்?
உண்மையாக இந்த விஷயத்தில் ரொம்ப கவலை இருக்குது, ரைட்? என்னென்னா நீங்கள் வித்தியாசமாக பார்க்க வேணும். யாழ்ப்பாணம் ஒரு மாதிரி, வன்னியில் இருக்கிற மக்கள் ஒரு மாதிரி, மன்னாரில் இருக்கிற மக்கள் ஒரு மாதிரி, ரைட்? வெளிநாட்டில் இருந்த தமிழ் மக்கள் திரும்பி வந்து கூட யாழ்ப்பாணத்துக்கு தான் போவாங்க, ரைட்? ஸோ யாழ்ப்பாணத்தில் இருக்கிற தமிழ் மக்கள் ஒரு மாதிரி இருப்பாங்க, கூட உதவி இருக்குது அவங்களுக்கு, ரைட்? டயஸ்போராவில் இருந்த கணக்காக்கள் அவங்களோட குடும்பங்களுக்கு காசு அனுப்புகிறாங்க யாழ்ப்பாணம்ல. ஆனால் அந்த நேரம்ல, so there's been some development, right? And there's been some space that's opened up. But I think really when you talk about people's feelings and people's perceptions, one of my biggest fears is that there's no sense of community anymore, right? There's no sense of a Tamil identity, or what does it mean to be Tamil now, right? And there's lots of reasons for that. Like, let's take the Vanni, for example, right? Where you have the most war-affected population, right? Even by the Sri Lankan government's own statistics, the poorest population in the country is in Mullaitivu and Kilinochchi. Recently, the Northern Provincial Council did another survey, and they also found the same numbers, right? Kilinochchi and Mullaitivu being the poorest districts in the north. By a long shot too. It's not as if they're close, right? They're the poorest districts by a significant amount. And what's happened in those areas is, you have this population that survived the last phase of the war, right? But for 8 years, they've been told again and again and again that they can be nothing more than victims, right? That they have to fit into a neat little box where they're victims. And so, they feel quite defeated. there's also a huge sense of distrust, right? So one of the areas of research we focus on is the security sector. And one of the problems with the security sector is there's these deep intelligence networks. And so one of our reports, on the Civil Security Department, basically discusses how the military has started employing a large number of Munnalarinda Poralia, war-affected women, different communities in the Banni, and through that has caused a lot of distrust, right? So if you take a small village in the Banni, people don't know who's working for military intelligence, who's reporting to them, and so they don't feel like they're a part of the community. Nobody knows who to report crime to. So, a number of Tamil women, and this is not just my finding, so it's been a finding that's been made by a number of researchers, including International Crisis Group, like Ambika Satkunanathan, who's a human rights commissioner in Sri Lanka now. All of these people have found that Tamil women living in the Banni feel less safe now than they did at the time that the LTTE was governing the Banni, right? They feel like there's a lot more harassment, there's increased reporting of domestic violence, as well as other kinds of sexual violence. And, there's very little ways that women feel like they can get recourse for what's happening to them, right? Obviously, there's lots of reasons that this might be happening, including the fact that there was a 30-year war, right? But at the same time, it just feels like people feel quite defeated and they don't feel the sense of community, right? One of our other publications was looking at militarization in Mullaitivu as well. And one of the impacts of militarization is almost its normalization. So our other director, Guru Paran, he has written about this, right? The normalization of the abnormal. Right. When people get used to seeing soldiers on the road, people don't feel like it's abnormal for the fact that the military is running all of these enterprises and it's such a big part of their life. But even if they themselves are no longer saying that it's a problem, it's affecting the community, right? It's not that level of distrust, that level of identity no longer exists. And I think that's part of the reason why we want to do this work, right? To address the fact that you need to rebuild a sense of community. And that the Tamil community also needs to be given a chance to do that, right? One of the most popular words in Sri Lanka right now is reconciliation. So everyone likes to talk about reconciliation. Just last week, the government announced that they're going to have a reconciliation television channel, but it's only going to be in the north. And so our question was, well, who are you reconciling with, right? Do you really need to go tell the Tamil population that they need to find reconciliation without accountability again? What really needs to happen is a chance for the Tamil community to come to terms with what happened during the war and what's happening after the war, because there are still ongoing human rights violations, right? This year we had a huge, groundbreaking report come out from the Associated Press that used findings from another NGO called International Truth and Justice Project that showed that torture is still ongoing in Sri Lanka, and in such a horrific way too, right? Torture, enforced disappearances, sexual violence, these are all issues that are still happening, right? And I think so we both need some sort of reckoning with what happened in the past, accountability and justice, which is a call that's been made again and again by the population in the Northeast, right? Whenever we talk about these issues, everyone always says, right, Sri Lankan government is willing to give you some level of, reconciliation activity, right? And உண்மை எடுத்து நீதி எடுக்காட்டி நீங்கள் அப்படி இருக்கலாம், right? சும்மா மறந்து இருக்க வேணும் என்னதான் Sri Lankan government சொல்றாங்க, right? And what we're saying is that to make sure that what happened never happens again, right? That the kind of human rights violations that happened at the end of the war, but also throughout and after the conflict don't happen again, you really need accountability and justice. And so I think even though we have a population that feels quite defeated and isn't just, I don't know, I think the sense of community and identity really need to be worked on, right? Like programs, when the diaspora gives back, for example, right? Tailoring programs so you're targeting a whole community. So if you're working in a village, look at the village as a whole, right? Because in some villages, one of the unfortunate effects of not the diaspora alone, but other people giving back has been that some people in the village receive assistance and other people don't, right? And that also causes issues within that village. So thinking about development more holistically, like linking development to politics and human rights, making sure everyone's kind of on the same page, I think is quite important. Yeah.
ஸோ நீங்கள் இவ்வளோ நேரம் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கும்போது எனக்கு ஒரு விஷயம் டக்குன்னு கிளிக் ஆனது என்னென்னா, இப்போ எங்களோட உமன்ஸுக்கு, அதாவது தமிழ் உமன்ஸ் ஹூஸ் இன் நார்த் அண்ட் ஈஸ்ட் ப்ராவின்ஸில் இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு வந்து சேஃப் இல்லைன்ற ஒரு விஷயம் யூ மென்ஷன்ட். அந்த விஷயத்தில் வந்து இப்போ அதர் தென் மிலிட்ரி, ஐ நோ we always have some issues through them, but other than that, வேறு ஆட்கள் மூலமாக எங்களோட உமன்ஸுக்கு எனி ஹராஸ்மெண்ட் or any other issues வேறு வெளி மக்களால் இருக்கும்போது யாரை நீங்கள் சொல்லுவீங்க? அதாவது LTT இருக்கும்போது we never had that issue. Our women always felt safe and they're always, they can go to work, they can come home anytime they want to come, they have no issues. But இப்போ வந்து அவங்க unsafe-ஆக ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாங்கன்னா, it's other than military, who else?
I mean, so some of the issues did exist throughout the conflict as well, right? Domestic violence was still there throughout the conflict, but I think the difference really was that before the war ended, in the let's take the Vanni, right? Because again, it varies from region to region. Sexual harassment was still very much present in Jaffna, right, throughout the conflict. There's studies that have shown that even, you know, at Nalothidavala, right, it was a very common practice for young boys to kind of think it was okay to harass young women, right? But I think the difference was that when Etham was around in the Vanni, women felt like they had a way to report, right? A way to report issues. Now, of course, there were other forms of oppression of women even then, right? It was a very authoritarian movement, and so there was that. But I do think that after the war has ended, women feel like there's no real, Tamil women feel like there's no way to report these issues, right? You can report them to the police, but the police are not very sensitive to these issues. In some places, the police are predominantly Sinhala, so it's hard to report anyways because there's a language barrier. In some police offices now, so police offices across the police stations, across the Northeast now have a woman's desk. But in a lot of places, the woman's desk is staffed by a man, or it's in the middle of the police station, right? So it doesn't really make a difference, right? If a Tamil woman is going in, or Tamil, Muslim, Sinhala, any woman goes into the police station and the woman's desk is staffed by a man in the middle of the station, it doesn't make a difference, right? They're still going to have the same issues in telling them, oh, you know, I'm having issues at home, or I'm being harassed within the community. Even for myself, like as a woman with significant privilege, right? I'm born and raised in the diaspora. I obviously look Western even when I'm in Jaffna. But walking on the road, like it's quite difficult, right? There's a significant amount of harassment that happens. I think part of it too is the fact that, again, this comes back to community and identity, right? In a post-conflict setting, you need to, or post-war setting, you need to have those conversations, right, about what does community mean. We have to have conversations about culture, right? People sometimes think culture is like this static thing, right? So women should do this, men should do that, and culture is, and it's not seen as an evolving thing, right? So I think there's quite a few issues internal to the community as well that need to be addressed. And there are some really great women's groups across the Northeast who are doing those issues. And in many cases across communities as well, right? So they work with Tamil women, Muslim women, and in some places in the East also with Sinhala women, right? And so there is work being done in trying to address some of the issues that women are facing outside of, like as you said, because the military is still a big factor. But you know, outside of the military, there is quite a bit of work being done to address these issues for Tamil women. But I think a lot more could be done. And I think some of those issues are still true in the diaspora as well, right? Like the diaspora is not perfect either. And I think Tamil women, even in the diaspora, face a significant number of challenges and obstacles, and also even sexual harassment, right? And I think that those issues of domestic violence really need to be addressed. Like recently in Toronto even, right, we had an incident of domestic violence where it was very sad, right? A mother was killed. And so those issues are not just in the Northeast, but also in the diaspora. And I think, so as a community, I think bringing these issues out into the open and not seeing them as a threat to anything else, right? Like if we talk about issues affecting gender, it doesn't affect our advocacy then when it comes to the state, right? Like you can both say that there are issues that the state is doing to the community, while at the same time talking about issues within the community. And so at Adayalam, we make a point of saying that our focus is, on issues where the state is impacting the Tamil community, but also issues within the community, whether it's gender, caste, relationships between Tamil and Muslim communities. Like, these are all issues that I think are important, because we have to think about how we rebuild a society in a way that actually includes everyone, right? Where everyone feels welcome. Otherwise, if you exclude Tamil women from the conversation, then why would they want to be a part of any kind of a political movement or a social movement, right? The point is not to trade one oppressor for another, right? And I think that's quite an important issue, so I'm happy that you raised that, yeah.
நாங்கள் தர்ஷா கூட நிறைய விஷயம் பேசியிருக்கிறோம். அது வரைக்கும் we'll go for a short commercial break. Okay, see you guys right after the break.
குழந்தை பருவம் முதலே எல்லோருக்கும் ஒரு கனவு இருக்கும். நினைவு தெரிந்து நாம் வாழ்ந்த வீடு, ஓடி விளையாடிய முற்றம், உறவுகளோடு கூடி கழித்த தருணங்கள், இவையெல்லாம் வெவ்வேறு இடங்களாக இல்லாமல் ஒரே வீடாக இருந்தால் அது கூட பிரிக்க முடியாத பந்தம்தான். உங்களுக்கு பிடித்த இடத்தில் பிடித்த வசதிகளோடு குடும்பத்தோடு கூடி வாழும் உங்கள் கனவு இல்லத்தை கண்டடைய கவி நாகராஜா 4165877120.
Welcome back to Promo Cafe, powered by Royal Page Reactor Kavi. So, Darsha, அடுத்த வந்து உங்கள்கிட்ட ஒரு முக்கியமான ஒரு கொஷன் கேட்கணும். இட் குட் பி உங்களோட பர்சனல் லைஃபோட சம்மந்தப்பட்ட ஒரு கொஷன் வந்து என்னென்னா, இப்போ ஆஸ் அ உமன், as a graduated girl, instead of saying a woman, you're still a young girl, right? A young woman, let's say a young woman. So, ஒரு young woman-ஆ வந்து நீங்கள் வந்து இந்த non-profit organization research director இருக்கிறீங்க. So you had to travel a lot, you had to be disappear from your house for a very long time. Even முன்னாடி நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி கூட year and a half you were in Sri Lanka. So in that case, how's your parents react? அவங்களோட மனநிலை, அவங்களோட reaction எல்லாம் வந்து எப்படி இருக்குது? The relationship between your parents, and then what they tell you, like, they encourage you to do this, or they're not too happy about what you do, like அந்த ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் அந்த விஷயங்கள் எப்படி இருக்குது உங்களோட லைஃப்பில்?
I mean, உண்மையாக அவங்களுக்கு தான் கவனம். ஆனால் I think obviously my amma and appa were quite scared initially for me to go back, especially to do this kind of work where we're very critical of the government. But I think I've always made these kinds of choices, right? I went back even under the Rajapaksa regime to look at these kinds of issues. And so I think they've gotten kind of used to it. They are still very worried. I still get phone calls from my amma every day, and we use those apps where you can track where everybody is, so they know where I am and stuff. But they have been quite supportive. Like, my parents, I think, have always been quite progressive, and both myself and my sister, they've always kind of told us to do what we think we want to do, and I think they're quite proud as well that I've chosen to do this and support the community. Obviously, they prefer that I, try and deal with my student loans, but I think they are quite supportive and proud of what I do, and with the exception of the occasional. My amma will tell you if you ask her, I've shaved years off of her life by doing this. But yeah, generally they're quite supportive.
Good, very good. So, இப்போ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, let's come back to our regular topic now. So, been past 2 years since 2015, I would say, like 2015. நான் வந்து kind of விஷயம் notice பண்ணிட்டு வரேன் இப்போ around Jaffna or around anywhere, like any north and east provinces, right? Even I was in Jaffna last year, like few times. When I was in Sri Lanka, I was all over the place in Sri Lanka. So, but I was noticed that there's too many protests are happening around, like வடக்கு கிழக்கு சைடில் வந்து கணக்கு ப்ரோட்டஸ்ட் நடக்குது. அதை பற்றி அது என்ன காரணத்துக்காக நடக்குது, அதை பற்றி உங்களோட ஒப்பீனியன் என்னவா இருக்கும்னு நீங்கள் நினைக்கிறீங்க? Like, why are they doing that? Like, what's the purpose of they doing that?
I mean, I've also noticed this as well, and I mean, நான் அந்த காணாமக்கப்பட்ட குடும்பங்களோட போராட்டமோட நான் கொஞ்சம் உதவி செய்கிறேன், அவங்களோட நான் கதைக்கிறேன். Like, I think the reason for the protest is twofold. One is that there is a little bit of space that's opened up since 2015, so people feel like they can protest. The other reason is people are very frustrated, right? So with the families of the disappeared, right? In the amma maad yosikranga, like, 2009க்கு பிறகு இப்போ 8 வருஷம், right? ஆனால் அவங்க ஒரு பிள்ளைகள் கணவன் like பிள்ளைகள் husbands, sisters, they still don't know where they are, right? And they've gotten quite frustrated because for many years they've been lobbying. Some of these ammas would go to every single military camp, right, to beg and ask, have you seen my child? A lot of these ammas in Kilinochi, Mullaitivu, now it's been 300 days since the protest started in February. So for 300 days, these women have sat in the rain, with mosquitoes, in the heat, with dust, on the roadside, right? So if you picture the A9, they're literally sitting next to the road in Kilinochi, in Mullaitivu, in Vaunia, in Trincomalee, in Marannankani, right? For over 300 days. And to be honest, our community like needs to do more to support them, right? Because what they're asking for is very simple. For many of these mothers who still believe that their children are alive, they just want their children back. And so they've made demands, right? They've asked the president, they've actually even met the president, because on the 100th day of their protest, they actually blocked the A9. And so in response to that, the president agreed to a meeting. And in that meeting, they gave him some demands, which included releasing a list of everyone who was surrendered at the last phase of the war, right? Because in April, May 2009, and now, at the very end, right, in May 2009, the military went around the camps and said, even if you've been in Iyakam for like 1 day, 3 hours, you have to produce yourself, otherwise the consequences could be far worse. So a lot of these ammas actually went and handed over their children because they were scared if they didn't, because the military was using intelligence, right? So if they didn't hand that person over and then someone pointed them out, what would be the consequence, right? So they actually physically handed their children over after the war had ended, and still to date they have never seen them again, right? And so for a lot of these predominantly women actually who are leading these protests and at the forefront of these movements, all they want is to see their children again and to get justice for what happened, right? Truth and justice are their demands again and again and again and again. And I think for me, I know you spoke about protests generally, but this protest in particular, I think, has like the same age as my amma or your amma, right? And you know, the fact that they are on the roadside, and I think the community needs to do more to support them, right? Both in the diaspora and in the Northeast, right? Like the community needs to rally behind these mothers because there are mothers, right? Can you imagine having your mother sit on the road for 300 days, right? It's heartbreaking, and to watch their physical condition, their mental condition, everything kind of wither away, because for 300 days, all they have done is sit there thinking about their disappeared loved one. And so, you know, the mental health issues that have come up are huge. And I know that some people in the diaspora have been supporting them, you know, coming and taking photos and kind of doing some advocacy. But I think we need to do more, like organize better. But I think there are also other protests that are happening, right? So there have been protests around political prisoners. You see the university students trying to organize protests. There was a protest earlier, 2 protests earlier this year and the year before called Elahatamal that talked about a number of issues. But I think generally what the protests are signaling is that the Tamil community feels very frustrated and discontent with the situation that is currently happening in the Northeast. But I also think it's a source of hope, right? Because it shows that people are still engaged on these issues, right? And people still think that there's a possibility of trying to rectify some of these issues. But I do think that as a whole, it would be good if the diaspora could show more solidarity, right? So for example, when the mothers of the disappeared reached the 1-year mark of their protest, I really think it would be a good thing if the diaspora could show solidarity, right? Because again, like, you know, there are mothers that are sitting on the road and all they're asking for is truth and justice for what happened to their disappeared loved ones. And I think, you know, the fact that the Sri Lankan government hasn't actually done anything to address these issues, to me, is the biggest failure on their part and the biggest indicator that they're not serious about issues of truth, accountability, and justice, right? Because even though they may have changed certain other things, right? So now you see a lot more tourism, there's a lot more folks from the diaspora coming back. The thing they haven't actually done anything on is accountability, right? And if we can't address accountability, then it's really hard to see how anything else will change. But I think, you know, I think for me the protests it's like a double-edged sword. It's good that people are protesting to voice their discontent. It's good that people feel like they have the space to do that. But at the same time, it makes me worried because so you have all these people kind of coming out and protesting, and then you see all the CID taking photos, right? There's a thing that the army says, right? Our hands are tied, but our eyes are open. And it's something they said during the ceasefire as well. But we saw what happened when the ceasefire broke down, and they just killed people that they had put on lists during the ceasefire. And I think that's something that we also need to be quite aware of, right? So, it's good that people are advocating for their rights. And if you ask these mothers, what they'll say is, well, we don't care what happens to us, right? We need to see our children again. For me, a particularly heartbreaking moment was in the summer when the mothers were getting so desperate about the issues, getting so frustrated that nobody cared, and nothing was happening. I went once to... I visit them quite often, and one time I went to Kilinochi and the mothers said, what do we need to do? Do we all need to commit suicide? And then they'll turn around and say, oh, well, what were they protesting about, right? And to me, that's quite heartbreaking, right? Like, we have to be able to do more, and the government should do more as well. Like, to provide answers for their issues, I think should be the simplest step. So I think, it is a very important issue.
ஸோ தர்ஷா நீங்கள் ரொம்ப விஷயம் உங்களோட அதாவது ஆர்கனைசேஷன் மூலமாக எங்களோட யுத்தத்தால் பாதிக்கப்பட்ட மக்களுக்கு எவ்வளோ விதமான உதவிகளை செய்கிறீங்க, அவங்களோட ரைட்ஸுக்காக எவ்வளோ தூரம் போராடுறீங்கன்ற விஷயத்தை ஐ நோ யூ டெஃபினெட்லி ஷேர் வித் அஸ் அண்ட் தென் டெஃபினெட்லி தி ஆடியன்ஸ் ஆர் வாட்சிங் இட். ஸோ இப்போ இது சம்மந்தமான விஷயங்கள் அவங்க மேலே அதாவது நீங்கள் சொன்ன விஷயங்களோட மேலதிகமான விஷயங்கள் இந்த புக்கில் உள்ள விஷயங்களை பற்றி அவங்க அறிஞ்சுக்கணுமெண்டா do you guys have a website or எந்த விதம் மூலமாக அவங்கள அதை அறிஞ்சிக்கலாம்?
Yeah, so எங்களோட வெப்சைட் இருக்குது www.adayalam.com, and also நாங்கள் Facebook, Twitterல இருக்கிறோம். எங்களோட வெப்சைட்டில் எல்லா பப்ளிகேஷன்ஸ் இருக்குது. And நாங்கள் யாழ்ப்பாணம்ல தான் நாங்கள் கூட events செய்வோம். So ஆக்கள் யாழ்ப்பாணம்ல இருந்தாங்கள்ல எங்களோட ஆஃபீஸ் வந்து பார்க்கலாம், இல்லாட்டி ஒரு eventக்கு வரலாம். because நாங்கள் discussions வைக்கிறோம் அங்கே இந்த விஷயத்தை பற்றி. But yeah, Facebook, Twitter, எங்களோட வெப்சைட், எங்களோட இமெயிலும் நாங்கள் பாவிக்கிறோம். So info@adayalam.org, அதுதான் எங்களோட email. So yeah.
ஸோ தர்ஷா, ஸோ நாங்கள் ஷோவை முடிக்க முதல்ல நீங்கள் ஏதாச்சும் அதாவது பார்த்து கொண்டு இருக்கிற ஆடியன்ஸுக்கு பப்ளிக்கு any request, you can put them any request, or if you want to say something to them, please go ahead, நீங்களே say it.
Sure. என்னோட ரிக்வெஸ்ட் நீங்கள் யாழ்ப்பாணம்க்கு இலங்கைக்கு திரும்பி உண்மையாக பாதிக்கப்பட்ட மக்கள் போய் பாருங்கோ, ரைட்? போய் பார்த்தா காணாது, போய் பார்த்து உதவி செய்யுங்கோ, அண்ட் யோசிச்சு உதவி செய்யுங்கோ. பிகாஸ் ஸ்ரீலங்காவில் இப்போ ஒரு பெரிய டூரிஸ்ட் டெஸ்டினேஷன், ரைட்? கணக்காக்கள் வராங்க, எங்களோட மக்களும் வராங்க. ஆனால் நாங்கள் அந்த இருக்கிற பாதிக்கப்பட்ட மக்களுக்கு உதவி செய்யாட்டி it's a big travesty. So my request is really think about staying engaged, read the news, listen to what's happening, look beyond your village, look beyond Jaffna, think about areas outside of Jaffna, in the Vanni, in the east. This is where people are most affected and really need support. So I think that would be my request, is for us not to forget our roots, really. My last request would be, whenever you're visiting Sri Lanka or thinking about Sri Lanka, to think about critically engaging. Even though the war has ended, and even though Rajapaksa is no longer president, there's still a significant war-affected Tamil population in the northeast. And there are brothers and sisters and cousins. We're only one removed from these people who are so terribly affected by the war. So my last request would be to continue to show support to them and solidarity to them, and to think about not just development assistance, but also how we can rebuild as a community, right? How we form those identities, how we ensure that issues of human rights don't get lost, issues of accountability and justice don't get forgotten. Because if we want to ensure that the Tamil population in the Northeast can actually live with dignity and with freedom, we have to address those issues. So my last request would be to continue to stay connected to the issues that are ongoing in the Northeast, including by finding out what's happening for yourself and trying to find ways to support them.
Perfect. So பார்த்து கொண்டிருக்கிற நீங்கள் உங்களால் முடிஞ்ச உதவிகள், அதாவது இந்த ஒரு சின்ன வயசில் அவங்க தன்னோட சோஷியல் லைஃப்பை விட்டு, அதாவது யுத்தத்தால் பாதிக்கப்பட்ட எங்களோட மக்களுக்காக எங்களோட மக்கள்னு சொல்ல நான் எந்த மக்களை மட்டும் சொல்ல உங்களையும் சேர்த்து தான் சொல்கிறேன். உங்களோட அம்மா அப்பா தம்பி தங்கச்சி அதை போல் எவ்வளோ பேர் நம்ம நாட்டில் வந்து கஷ்டப்பட்டு இருக்கிறாங்க. அவங்களுக்கான உரிமைகள் மறக்கப்பட்டிருக்குது. அவங்களுக்கான உரிமைகளை வந்து இன்னும் அதாவது யுத்தம் முடிந்து 8 வருடங்களாகியும் இன்னும் அவங்களுக்கான உரிமைகள் வந்து போய் சேரவில்லை. அதற்காக ஒரு அடையாளம் அவங்க மிகவும் ரொம்ப கீழே இறங்கி போய் ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்பட்டு ஒர்க் பண்ணிக்கிட்டு இருக்கணும். ஸோ அதால் வந்து அதற்கு எங்களால் முடிஞ்ச உதவிகள் நாங்களும் உதவி செய்கிறோம். தயவு செய்து உங்கள்கிட்டையும் இந்த உதவிகளை எதிர்பார்க்குறோம். அவங்க வந்து இப்போ ஒரு ஆர்கனைசேஷன் நடத்துகிறேன்டா வந்து இட்ஸ் நாட் ஈஸி, இட்ஸ் வெரி ஹார்ட், ரைட்? இட்ஸ் வெரி ஹார்ட். ஸோ அதுக்கு வந்து குறிப்பிட்ட அளவு ஃபண்ட்ஸ் தேவைப்படும் அவங்களுக்கு. ஸோ நீங்கள் எவ்வித உதவிகளாக இருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்லை, உங்களுக்கு தெரிந்த 4 பேரிடம் சொல்லுங்கள், அவங்களுக்கான உதவிகளை செய்யுங்கள். அவங்களுக்கு நீங்கள் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணால் தான் அவங்க எங்களோட மக்களுக்கு அவங்களுக்கான உரிமைகளை வந்து பெற்றுக் கொடுக்கறதுக்கு வந்து வசதியாக இருக்கும். ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் ஹெல்ப் தம் அண்ட் சப்போர்ட் தம். அண்ட் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து நீங்கள் எந்த விதத்தில் மணி வைஸ் டொனேஷன் வைஸ் ஹெல்ப் பண்ண போகிறீங்கன்னா யூ கேன் அவங்களோட வெப்சைட்டில் போகலாம். அவங்களோட இமெயில் இருக்குது, இமெயில் மூலமாக கான்டாக்ட் பண்ணலாம். டெஃபினெட்லி தேர் வில் பி a phone number too. ஸோ நீங்கள் அந்த ஃபோன் நம்பர் மூலம் கான்டாக்ட் பண்ணலாம். கான்டாக்ட் பண்ணி அவங்களுக்கான உதவிகளை செய்யுங்கள். நீங்கள் உதவிகள் செய்தால்தான் அவங்களும் எங்களோட மக்களுக்கு யுத்தத்தால் பாதிக்கிற மக்களுக்கு தொடர்ந்தும் உதவிகள் செய்வாங்க. மனித உரிமை ஜனநாயக நாட்டில் மனித உரிமை இல்லாமல் வாழ்கிறது வந்து ரொம்ப கடினமான விஷயம். நாங்கள் இந்த நாட்டில் இருக்கிறோம், அதாவது கனடாவில் இருக்கிறோம், எங்களுக்கு அனைத்து வசதிகளும் இருக்குது, எல்லா விதத்திலையும் நாங்கள் சுதந்திரமாக வாழ்கிறோம். அப்படி வாழும்போது நாங்கள் இங்கே இருந்து ஸ்ரீலங்காவுக்கு போகிறோம்டா கொழும்புல இறங்கி டிரெக்டாக ஜெஃப்னா போயிட்டு ஜெஃப்னாலேருந்து திருப்பி கொழும்புலேருந்து நாங்கள் டிரெக்டாக கனடா வந்துடுவோம். எங்களுக்கு இடையில் நடக்கிற விஷயங்கள் தெரியாது. அந்த இடையில் நடக்கிற விஷயங்களை வந்து தர்ஷா 1.5 வருடமாக அங்கே இருந்து பார்த்து எங்களோட மக்களுக்காக ரொம்பவே போராடி கொண்டிருக்கணும். ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் லெட்ஸ் ஹெல்ப் தம் அண்ட் லெட்ஸ் சப்போர்ட் தம் அண்ட் அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு கை கொடுப்போம். லெட்ஸ் கிவ் us them a hand and then definitely sooner or later we'll have our rights.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to Selfie TV and DNA Studios. It's been wonderful to be on Promo Cafe, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your time. And definitely உங்களோட முயற்சிகள் அனைத்தும் வெற்றி பெறும். அண்ட் எங்களோட மக்களுக்கான ரைட்ஸ் டெஃபினெட்லி முன்னாடி நான் அவங்கள்ட்ட சொன்ன மாதிரி sooner or later we will have it and then let's fight together. Okay, thank you. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for coming to our show. Thank you.